I yield my time to the floor for questions.
When do you go to Boys Nation?
I'm not going to Boys Nation, unfortunately.
Oh.
That's a bit of a sore spot, actually. I'm a bit offended you asked that one.
Oh, sorry.
We do, however, instead of having 2 guys go to Boys Nation, we have 4 of them this year because one of the states, they couldn't send, Connecticut could not send their kids, and so instead of being able to send 2, we're sending 4 kids from Boys Nation. One of them, I believe, is from Parkston. So that's pretty cool. But no, not all Boy State governors go to Boys Nation, unfortunately.
So I just have to ask, were you a debater? I mean, you obviously are really a good speaker. And P.S., I was just leaning over, I said, I remember when he was a little boy. But like, what kind of experience did you have that brought you to run for governor?
Yeah, it's kind of on the nose. I am a debater. I've been debating for the past 3 years in high school. I'm actually a 2-time qualifier for nationals in extemporaneous debate. Although my forte is more about like foreign policy than state or national policy. But no, I'm a debater, and so maybe that was a little unfair to my opponent when we actually entered the debate stage. But I don't know. So no, it was. I think that experience overall kind of helped me out a little bit when it came to actually getting up there and speaking in front of everybody.
Joseph, do you have future plans yet, or still figuring it out?
Well, ideally, I'm coming for his job, but I guess we'll see, huh?
Okay. Get in line. I think there's.
No, but I'm thinking about, USD for political science and pre-law, and then, from there, I really guess I don't know. It's still a while off yet, but getting that kind of base foundation for something in law figured out, I think.
I had Joe as a youth wrestler way back when.
I was terrible at it, so I'm a little sad you had to bring that up. But I'll tell you what, I've tried about every sport that has been available to, Mitchell Public School, and I'm so glad I found debate because I was terrible at all of them. So, all right, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
One additional comment. He's our actually 3rd governor from Mitchell High School. The other 2 in 1967 was Susan Gillis, Girl State, and in 2016, that was 1967, I might have said 2000. In 1967 was Susan, and 2016 was Raina Grimsley. So. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Stephanie, they're having trouble.
yeah, it says that it sounds like someone is leaving their mic on when they're not speaking.
We actually had no audio, and now we have audio. It's going to be buzzing. There's not anything I can do about it.
Okay. So we do have issues with it. We're finding a few bugs in the system. Okay. Okay. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor or members of the city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken this time. Who wishes to address the council?
My name is Beth Bauer. I live on West Harmon here in Mitchell. I have some stuff we can pass around. It's nice visual to show you. I'm going to talk
Beth,
about 5G.
Can you make sure that you're talking right into the microphone
Sure.
since we're struggling tonight?
Is that better?
Yeah. Can you-
Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you about 5G. So when you receive this, you'll see a picture. I moved here from Minneapolis last fall to get away from 5G. And it was a fluke that I discovered that I felt well here. So the pictures show how sick I was. And literally all I would do is leave Minnesota and drive out here to my friend's house in Mitchell. And then you see the 3rd page where I'm well. That is literally the same day as the first 2 pages. All I did was come here to get away from 5G, and my body could heal itself. And then as you see on the 4th page, I stayed here 2 nights, and that's what I looked like after sleeping here. So my concern is that 5G is here, and it is causing not only myself some issues already, but other people in the community I've been speaking with. I spoke with people at Pizza Ranch out by the tower that's on Norway, as well as with Little Learners, and they are all having issues there, headaches, dizziness, and anxiety at those locations. So what happened to me, in April of 2019, I started having issues, and I was living in the Twin Cities and did not know that 5G was already there. In June of 2020, my husband began to suspect it was 5G, and we started looking online to find out how many were in our area. And there were 12 in the Minneapolis area. 2 weeks later, I went from being able to walk a mile or more outside to not even being able to walk a block. And we looked again and found out we had 79 towers. So in a 2-week span of time, we went from 12 towers to 79, which rendered me unable to walk and as sick as those pictures as you see. So then we've been following the rollout process just to kind of watch, you know, what has been going on. And it is here in Mitchell. At that time, when you see how bad the pictures were, my hair was falling out by handfuls. I had nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, headaches, vertigo, and severe fatigue. These are all symptoms of radiation poisoning. You can look it up. That's what it is, and 5G is a form of radiation. So when I moved here, there were 16 towers in the state of South Dakota. There are now 380. So what happens with these pictures, the reason I'm all swelled up, 5G actually explodes your cells, and they die. And your body has to purge them through your lymph system. And if you don't keep up, this is what you look like, and eventually you die from the radiation poisoning. Bluetooth, electronics, wireless, Wi-Fi, smart devices, it's all EMF. It all does damage to our bodies. There's 500 peer-reviewed articles, which are scientific articles, peer-reviewed, okay? The FCC, who regulates cell towers, they ignored it. They absolutely ignored it and said, well, you know, the heat readout is okay, so therefore it's okay. Scientific community says absolutely untrue. So I put in those packets, there's a reference to this 500 peer-reviewed articles. You can go click it. You can get 94 pages of links to peer-reviewed articles on how bad 5G is for your body.
You need to
and
wrap
your
it
health.
up. Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sonia Vanderwick. I'm from Mitchell Township. I'm here also because I met Beth and her family when they came from Minneapolis. The questions I would like our community to ask ourselves is, 1, does our community understand the negative impacts of radio frequencies and EMF? 2, do we have a policy in place that the City Council is able to track 4G and 5G tower installation? 3, and how will the community be protected from 5G rollout when we already know there are horrible effects from 4G and just radio frequencies as alone just from the research and documentation? Over the past 2 years, I've really become more aware of that. Digging into it, I knew kind of what was going on with microwaves and stuff like that, but I never really thought it was that serious. But over the last year, we've seen 5G towers installations skyrocket over the world. You can actually go to Ookla. You can see in my presentation, I gave you a copy of that at the bottom. There's 12 sites that I gave you for information that I can't even touch on all of it, but I wanted you to have it. It will tell you the current places where there's 5G. Some of them aren't necessarily updated, but if you look at South Dakota, it's like what Beth said, it's skyrocketing. Currently, I went to the PubMed.gov website. If you're familiar with, you can go look up anything you want, NIH research website. I found 2,116 references relating to cell phone radiation and over 900 for cell phone radiation adverse effects. So it's clear there's health effects. So there's two different types. There's low energy non-ionizing radiation, which includes like electronic devices, cell phones and such. There's high ionizing radiation, which includes like X-rays and gammas. And those are pretty much inflicting the damage and stuff on your DNA and cell structure. But non-ionizing radiation is low and not considered dangerous as opposed to the other. However, the effects of that can be cumulative, so you may not notice things until after a while. There was a document put together that was the International EMF Scientists Appeal by 255 EMF scientists from 44 nations and 15 supporting scientists from 11 nations that have signed that, and that is also in there. So it's short-term and long-term effects. Headaches, aches and pains, fatigue, tingling, burning, anxiety, stress, nausea, irritabilities, insomnia, decreased sperm motility, cancers, brain tumors, damage to your DNA, neurological issues such as Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's, Parkinson's, infertility, blood issues, cardiac arrhythmias, gut issues, hostility, depression. I mean, it all goes on. And actually, in one study, after 2.5 minutes of holding your cell phone, your red blood cells start to clump. So if that gives you an idea of what can happen to that, it's very serious. There's also a sheet that's included that shows the difference in the brain effects of microwave radiation on a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, and an adult. And the impact on children is huge, and that hence why she brought up the fact of that place being there. But there's been over 5,000 cases of glioma and meningioma in another study that talked about cell phone radiation. Again, how are we going to regulate these? How do we know for sure 5G? Because I was told there's no 5G. We went around with meters, and Scott will talk about that, that there's like, this is like horrible death readings on the EMFs when you are outside these places, and even in your house, if you check your phones and microwaves and such, it's a concern. So we wanted to bring that to you, and we will have other information that we'll send to you. And sorry for one of them, I think we may not have one of the documents in there for you, but thank you.
Hi, my name's Scott Bauer. I live on West Harmon. I appreciate all you guys' time. So a part of the 5G as well, they're going to come out with OTARD, or over-the-air reception devices. So they're essentially legally going to act like satellite dishes, but they're going to help amplify and boost and then retransmit the 5G signal from residential homes. There's some companies that are trying to get into the internet industry that are offering deals to pay homeowners $1,200 a year to have that device on their roofs. And we know, scientifically proven, that there's health effects from 4G, but 5G is just astronomically worse. With the meters that we did go around, the meter you should have to be not affecting any health issues, it should be reading 0.0001 milliwatts per meter squared for the EMFs. And 5G, all of those towers that we went around and tested, they were peaking over what my meter could actually be able to display. The threshold is 19.999, so it's somewhere over 20, so that's at least 200,000 times worse than what it should be for no health adverse effects. I do work in IT for a company out of state, and we've never ran into any issues with just utilizing the 4G speeds. 4G does have its own health issues, but the 5G is just astronomically worse. And there is, inside the city code, if the signals are harming the public, there's language in the city code for the removal of it. We're asking for it to remove now. It isn't that scientists aren't aware of the risks and the harms of 5G, it's just that it's being ignored for the sake of big tech. And we may not all feel it yet. There's few that are more sensitive, but the effects of 5G and the radiation are cumulative. So we may not feel it now. There are a select few that are, but in time we all will. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Isabella Stewart, and I live on West Harmon. Just so you know, the towers, the 5G towers in Mitchell, there's one by the Coca-Cola and one behind the Performing Arts, one on top of the courthouse, and one somewhere else. I'm sorry, I forget where. Here, I'm going to read a friend's personal story about their exposure from 5G cell tower. And over the winter months, for sure January, I started noticing many different issues with my health. You see, I live by a tower here in Mitchell and hadn't thought anything about it until now. I was increasingly getting fatigued when I normally had so much energy. I would promise people I would help them, and several people noticed how tired I was and told me. My daughter and granddaughter noticed how tired I looked, not my normal. I would have these weird feelings in my stomach and right side of my abdomen, a tight and squeezing type sensation. At night when I laid down, my body was so tight I couldn't relax. My legs were weak and I had no desire to go for walks or do the normal lawn maintenance and other activities I do outside. I had such terrible brain fog and forgetfulness where I could not remember where I was driving to or why I was going there. I had this strange feeling on the lower left backside of my brain. Can you imagine this? None of this is normal. It kept progressing, and by April it was the worst. I was walking back to my car one time, and I felt like a bug bit the back of my knee, but when I looked, there was a black and blue area of what looked like a freshly popped blood vessel. The last thing I started to notice was shortness of breath and the desire to yawn a lot. When I took deep breaths, it felt like it wasn't enough. My husband was having issues as well, feeling like he was getting dementia when he had always been on his game, so to speak, and feeling tired and wondering why he had not been sick. as he had not been sick. When I would be outside more, the symptoms got worse, and now I realize it is because I was being exposed to this tower. I fear for what this is doing to others, and that they just have no idea that these cell towers could be negatively impacting their health. Please take this information at heart and know that there are many other people having symptoms as well, but most don't know what this EMF could be causing it. Please look at the research already done on the effects of EMF and how it negatively impacts health. We need to demand that the telecommunications companies have the burden of proof to show us that these towers and these technologies are indeed safe. Ultimately, we need to stop this unproven, unsafe technology from taking over our city. Our health and our lives depend on it. Thank you. Also, I have suffered from problems from exposure. I used to live in Minneapolis, and I would come out here and I would feel so much better. I used to have brain fog there and fatigue and nausea, and I just felt awful all the time. I couldn't think, I couldn't function. And then when I came out here, I started feeling better. But now that there's more towers in the area, I've started feeling those things again. And I've also been getting increased headaches and migraines, which is something that I used to have in the cities that I didn't have here for a time until the 5G got worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Hello, my name's Jeff Harris, and my concern is the property that you folks purchased, the Harvey Kelly, the late Harvey's land. January 26th, I was traveling home. Oh, it looked like I have neighbors. Go in and there's a bunch of cars parked on the lawn and on sprinkler heads. There's no parking lot, and I call Mr. Mayor and
January 26th?
June 26th, excuse me if I said June 26th.
Yeah, at least I heard January. So.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure we had the right date.
Yep.
Okay.
And my concern is that you told me that the park department's renting that out. And I have a big problem with that. For one, it's not zoned commercial. It's zoned residential. It's a beautiful home that Harvey built. For the park department to rent it out to whoever, for whatever reason, there's the tile floor is imported from Italy. If something gets spilt or stains the tile floor, you can't go to Menards and buy it. What's going to happen to that $4 or $5 million property that we own as a city? I'm pretty disappointed in the actions. I do appreciate that you guys mowed the weeds. There was 130 acres of nothing but thistle, and then they all hatched. The seeds went everywhere, but now it got mowed. I appreciate that. Last winter, I talked to you about the trees that fell that are on the city property. They fell on the road. Nobody could go down the road, so we took and pushed your trees into the ditch and said those ditches need cleaned up. It's on 406 Avenue. They've never been cleaned up. Nothing but the snow piles up on the road. If those trees fell from my property, I'd have to be cleaning them up. You guys are just, I thought we'd have good neighbors with the city, and for us to rent out that house for whoever, I mean, we can't, they had a wedding reception there, the realtor, and next thing you know, somebody will rent it out for a keg party. And what are you going to have to sell after somebody starts destroying the place? It's just not a good choice. We need to stop that. The neighbors, we don't want it to be a party house, a $4 million party house. It's just not wise. Well, I'm here to voice my opinion, and thanks for listening, and I hope you can sell it to somebody for residential. And we don't want it to be a party house out there.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council?
I'm Christy Gunkel, owner of Second and Lawler. I'm too late to get on the agenda this week, but I was just going to give a heads up. I'm asking for a road closure right in front to, it'd be between Lawler and I'm not sure what that road is, Kimball. Right in front, it'd be the north side of our building on July 24th for Crazy Days. We're wanting to have some inflatables, some kids' games, petting zoo. I also am doing a kickoff for I Pledge for Ice Cream event for kids that are under 12. If they can say the Pledge of Allegiance, recite that by heart, then they get a free ice cream. So we're trying to do a big event around that. We also have a gentleman retiring that's in the back of our building, and so he will be having an auction, and he's trying to find a place for it. So I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone, and he would be off to the east end of that road. So I was just trying to get it out there, and then you guys, I'm assuming you'll vote next week.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Or-
It will be on the agenda in 2 weeks. She asked to get it on this time, but it was a little late
Yeah.
for when the agenda was put together. So. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council?
I just wanted to give us a little shout out. The Masons had their state convention in Mitchell. I don't know how many people had it. The mayor, I know, spoke, did a greeting, but Denny Robinson and Jason Swindler did about a year's work on this. They brought people from a 5-state area into Mitchell. It's a 3-day event, and them boys put a lot of work into it. And Jason Swindler, I don't know if Mitchell's ever had it, but I don't know what they call it, but he is the state commander, the head of the state, whatever the Masons terminology is. But it's a really good thing for Mitchell, and they did a lot of work to bring it here, and I don't know if they've ever had the state Masons convention, but because of them two guys, it was in Mitchell, and I want to just give them a hand.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to? Okay, Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for the City Council to recess sit as the Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on an application for Ethan Co-op Lumber on behalf of LifeQuest 100 East Elm. Ethan Co-op has applied on behalf of LifeQuest for a side yard lot variance of 9 feet versus 20 feet is required to construct an addition at 100 East Elm, legally described as Lot 7, 8, 9, and 10, Block 11, Van Epps Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. The property is zoned R3, medium-density residential.
Just a reminder, this will need a 6-0 vote to pass. And Planning Commission did recommend approval of 6-0.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion?
Just one comment. I sit on that board, Mayor, so I'm going to abstain.
Abstain. That is why you need a 6-0 vote, because Mr. Allen is missing and Mr. Smith is abstaining. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Abstain.
And one abstention. Action to set date for Board of Adjustment hearing 7/19/2021. Marcy Stoltz has applied for a conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care center located at 523 South Montana Street, legally described as Lot 6, Block 4, Van Epps, 2nd Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn the City Council reconvene regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearings and actions on the following alcohol license applications. On the application to transfer RB 2652-3, retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license from Jose L. Haro Valencia, doing business as La Katrina LLC, 108 North Main Street, to Joseph L. Haro Valencia, doing business as La Tequila Mexican Food LLC, 108 North Main Street, Mitchell, South Dakota, due to reconfiguration of the business.
Mayor and Council, Chief Koster, Police Department, we have no concerns about this.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody nice wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to transfer RW 2755-9 retail on-off sale wine and cider license from Jose El Haro Valencia, doing business as La Catrina LLC, 108 North Main Street, to Jose El Haro Valencia, doing business as La Tequila, whatever, Mexican Food LLC. My Spanish is terrible. Mrs. Charks, you could probably tell me how to read that, couldn't you? Mitchell, due to the reconfiguration of the business.
Mayor and Council, Police Department has no concerns on this item either.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to transfer RL 5771 retail on-sale liquor license from the Chamber of Commerce, 601 North Main Street, Mitchell, to Bradley Theme LLC, doing business as Scoreboard, 522 North Main Street, Mitchell.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster again, no concerns with this transfer item.
Okay. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion?
I was just wondering if you wanted some free advertising.
You don't want to make Mrs. Bradley speak to this?
You're good.
All right, we're good.
Thank you so much for last week. It's been 2 weeks since we weren't here.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Acknowledgement and action on notice of intent to transfer property located at 701 North Main. Mr. Johnson, are you going to speak to this?
Sure. As you recall, with the former Casey's lot at 701 North Main, when the city transferred that property to the Development Corporation, we did so with a number of provisions in the deed, one of those being that we have a recurring right of first refusal, which allows us the opportunity to repurchase the property basically at any time that the property would be changing hands, and let us sit in the shoes of that potential purchaser. So we were given the formal notice that there is a transfer proposed, so the details are included in the acknowledgement. Basically, right now, the city needs to make a decision whether we will elect to repurchase the property for that intended sales price, or if we will decline our option and let that sale go through to the intended transferee. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
I think we went over this with the question earlier, but the actual right of refusal with future sales will transfer along with this sale if we do elect not to repurchase. Is that correct?
Correct. So if we choose not to elect it at this time, we would again have that opportunity the next time there would be a proposed sale. So it continues until we either repurchase the property or give up our right of first refusal. We'd have to do that formally too.
So every time it sells, it'll have to come back to council. Well, we need a motion as to how you want to proceed. I guess if you want to hear from the public first, we could allow the comments to come up. Okay? Does anybody wish to speak to this? Come on up. State your name, please.
And it's been requested that if you're speaking, to make sure you're speaking directly into the microphone.
Doug Altman. I live in Mitchell here. I owned Doug's Auto for like 30 years. The background behind the property, it was sold for $900. The appraised value at the time was $25,700, and it was sold for $900. And the appraised value was dated back all the way to 2010. Well, I'm sure it's going to be worth way more than 25.7 as of right now. You know, how the city, or how it turned into this, you know, selling it for $900 and buying it back for $20,000, but that's all, you know, beside the point right now. But as far as selling it or not buying it back for $20,000, you know, that's ridiculous. Anybody in a heartbeat would give the appraised value of 25.7 that was 10 years ago. I would myself, or more, if the city chooses to take the property back, resell it, do whatever. But why should anybody be compensated or given a good deal when you're dealing with the city's money? And in my opinion, it's something that the city got into. They shouldn't have got into it, but they did. If they can buy it back for $20,000, buy it back. If they don't need it, don't want it, resell it. But it's, the property is worth way more than $20,000. And, you know, I'm willing to give way more than $20,000 myself. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Mike Bathke. I guess I talked to Susan and Mr. Dozier and Mr. Allen about this when it transpired to begin with. And I hate to say this, Susan, but I told you so. I told you they weren't going to build nothing there, and the city was going to be in the position to have to buy it back if we wanted it. It wasn't a good move. I think we all consider and say it wasn't a good move. I don't want to say it was illegal because it wasn't illegal. But it was kind of ironic when I asked Mr. Dozier about it. He didn't even know it sold. He wasn't at the meeting because it was a special meeting on a Friday. And then when I asked him what he thought it sold for, he thought $100,000. Yeah. No, $900, I told him. And he dug into it, called me back, and explained why he thought we did it. I guess I was kind of okay with it at the time. And then I noticed the city, and I don't know if Joe can tell me if I'm right on this or not, but I seen the city chip seal it one day. Well, that's strange. That's private property. Why would we chip seal private property? And if so, were we paid for it? If not, this would be the time to get paid for it.
We put seal down on it to use it, or that was part of our agreement to be able to use the...
But Susan told me we didn't need parking lots.
It wasn't for parking lots, it was to use it for the Corn Palace Week, and then Festival did the, I don't know if it was... Right, but was it chip seal, or did you just put rock down on it? I don't remember what they did, but the Corn Palace did it through their funds, so...
So the city paid for it?
The Corn Palace paid for it, through their enterprise fund.
Okay, but the city paid for it. We can agree, because
the Corn Palace, it came out of the Corn Palace's budget, yes.
And
they're an enterprise fund, so they're, yeah, if they make money, it comes back into the city. Right. They lose money, yes, we subsidize them.
My point is, that's my point is, as a taxpayer in the city of Mitchell, I don't think we should be out doing that. There's businesses that do that. And I guess my last point is, as we move forward with the Crafty Fox deal, I hope we really learn from this, and I think we will. And, you know, if Mr. Altman wants to buy it, let's let him buy it. But let's put in there, he's got 24 months to do something with it. I think it's really simple, just like the Crafty Fox. I'm really concerned we're going to take a leap there because we will have a building we've stuck a lot of money into, and I don't know we're going to get it out of it. I don't think anybody knows we're going to get out of it. You may know more than I do. I'm sure you do. But I don't want the city jumping into the realty business again. Because the guy talked about the Kelly House, I just don't agree with that. Why did we not take that eminent domain? Leave the house, take the land.
Not quite as simple as that.
I'm sure it's not, but I have asked that question. But I think the moral of the story is, let's all learn from it, move on. Thank you.
Justin?
just to clarify, that property is not ours to sell. It's Mitchell Area Development Corporation sold it to an individual who is now selling it. Our only concern is that we have right of first refusal.
Right.
So
It's either buy it for 20,000 or don't buy it for 20,000, and somebody else buys it for 20,000.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Beck. I'm the CEO of the Development Corporation and the Chamber, and I just wish Danny Allen was here tonight so he could lash me in public and not just in the paper. No laughing matter, though. I just wanted to lay out what has happened for folks who don't already know. So the lot was transferred from the city to the Mitchell Area Development Corporation for $1. And as a charitable nonprofit organization, our job is to, among other things, help small businesses expand and grow in the Mitchell community. That was clearly the intent with us acquiring that lot. It didn't happen that way. If it had been developed as we were led to believe, I think we obviously wouldn't be here this evening talking about this. What I can assure you is that we won't make this mistake again, and we hope it never occurs in the future. And other than that, I would just do my best to answer any questions that you have.
And to clarify, you have no rights in the property. An individual is the one selling it, not you.
Correct.
So.
And he's not here tonight, is he, to speak for himself?
He is not able to be here this evening. I can tell you we've been meeting with Mr. Dorr since the transfer became public to us, and encouraging him to transfer the lot back to us so we could take a second try at this, likely do an RFP. And I can tell you that he has resigned from our board effective this afternoon. And he gave me the permission to say that his intention is to donate the profits from the sale of this lot.
Do we know what the profits are?
Close. So we know it's selling for $20,000. The closing costs were about $2,800. So I think that would be the largest expense so far. And then I think it would probably be open for negotiation with the council on what they feel is legitimate expense. It's property, is that a property tax? You know, those are things I think that Mr. Dorr would be willing to work with the council on.
It would be nice if he was here so we know what he
In his defense, he's been in Yankton selling fireworks for the holiday, and I believe last week he missed a son's baseball game and he wanted to go tonight.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Doug, come up to the microphone because it goes out so everybody can hear you.
I'll share.
Okay. Why was the property sold for only $900?
There are some pretty stiff covenants on that lot.
I got a copy of
Okay,
them
you've
here.
got it. So
I got them highlighted.
Thank you. What a team, huh? Okay, so the thought was that it's going to be pretty difficult to develop this lot. I think the former administration of these organizations. So with the covenants and the size of the lot, basically they sold the lot to Mr. Dorr for the cost that the development court incurred, plus 10% of it.
Okay, who is that and who owned the LLC? I see now it's not being sold to the same LLC. It's being sold to a different LLC.
Right.
And I cannot get any information on who owned the LLC.
Okay. I can share that with you offline if you would like. Yeah, and the LLC has changed their name.
Right.
Okay.
And then the person that you sold the property to, they were part of your group?
The gentleman's name is Matt Dorr, and he is an officer on the chamber board. And the sale was...
Step up to the microphone.
I'm sorry. So the purchaser was Matt Dorr, and he was on the he was on the chamber board, and the development corporation sold this lot to him. So it wasn't a direct conflict of interest, but I think that's a very questionable situation.
Did anybody else have the opportunity to buy it?
We had that exact conversation this afternoon. I think Matt asked questions of people who were familiar about the sale and said, I might have an interest in developing that lot. And I think the development corporation was excited that somebody was ready to develop that lot. And so that's how the two came together. I don't think he was divvied to any additional information that anybody else wasn't. He just asked the questions.
So then at the time when it was sold, why didn't they put a variance that it was going to be developed in a certain amount of time without making a profit on it? And as of right now, the weeds are about 2 foot tall around this amount.
Yeah. That was a mistake that we won't make again. Any other questions from the council?
I want to make a comment. I'm the liaison to the Development Corporation, and Jerry's about 10 days into this. And so thank you for coming up.
Is that all it's been?
I don't,
What a 10 days, huh?
That's all right.
and clarifying the process. And I think to the point, yes, we probably did some things that we would have done different if we started over today. But it was very much public knowledge, the fact that Casey's did come and donate the land to the city. Yes. And it was on our agenda at least 2 times, if not more, with the discussion. And it was brought to our attention that they had very strict covenants that were on there, but yet they still wanted something viable there because they seem to be they're interested in the city because they're still here. It's just that they didn't want anybody competing against their other store, obviously. So, we had that in place, and it was very clear, and this was probably, I'd have to go back and look, but it was a multi-month process that we went through this to eventually get it to the development court. And then at that point in time, we knew that Development Corp, they do like to get property on tax rolls, and we want the same thing. And so once it was moved over there and indicated that obviously they probably should have put an RFP out, but I guess it didn't get done, and there was one person that showed interest in it, and he ended up buying it for the cost plus a little bit more, and with the intent of building a little shop, a boutique that his wife is in. And then, as I remember it, we were heading into the winter months, and it didn't quite work out. And as he was trying to get things possibly put together, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and then the timing wasn't right, and all of a sudden we're 2 years down the road. And yes, should we have put some type of a covenant that he needed to start this project sooner than later? Obviously. It was a mistake that was made, but I guess we trusted the individual at the time that Matt would be able to do that. And again, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. The only thing we had in there is the right of first refusal, that if by chance somebody, again, kind of going back to Casey's, what they kind of wanted, make for sure they gave it to the city, and then we worked with what we had to do as far as trying to get it sold, because it is quite a process to sell property on behalf of the city, and that's why we've used the Development Corp in the past, and it's worked out very well. So just wanted to get a little bit more history, and that's where we sit today. And we do have, I guess, the individual was in the paper of wanting to utilize the lot. Is it worth 15? Is it worth 20? Is it worth 25? Is it worth more than that? I guess, you know, we don't know that, but it could be worth less than if we end up selling it or buying it for the 20,000. It's just a matter of, you know, several people say that they now want to buy it, but there wasn't anybody standing in line 2 years ago when this got put together. Right or wrong, that's where we're at.
I'm willing to leave a check here tonight for $25,700.
We don't have it. It's not us that's selling it. You have to work that out with Mr.
But you
Dorff.
can refuse the sale.
We could, right.
And then make money on it.
We
can't refuse the sale.
Oh, you could.
We can elect to buy it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Further discussion? Anybody else wish to address this? Okay. Yes, back to council.
We're looking for a motion.
So you're going to have a motion to either exercise our right to buy it back, take the first right of refusal and buy it back, or decline that right at this point. Am I right here, Mr. Johnson? And allow the purchase to go through as it currently exists.
I'll make that motion, and do we have to put the price?
I guess the motion to repurchase the property or to let the sale go through?
To repurchase the property? And do we need the price in there?
It would be the $20,000 that is the sales price.
I'll make the motion that we repurchase the property for the $20,000.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Savers?
Can we add in there that we get the profits, or the...
No, we're buying, you're having us buy it back.
Correct.
But wasn't he going to give us...
Oh, I don't...
Whatever his expenses were, minus...
I don't know that you
That that would not be any condition. We'd have no control over what he does with that fund, with that money.
Matt has shared this, that if the lot had gone through to the Gunkels, he would donate it to the city, and I think it would be designated to the Main Street scape planning there. If it doesn't go through, he will donate the profits to two charities of his choice in the community.
Could we have that in writing?
He's not here, so we're not going to get it in writing tonight.
So as I said, there would be nothing that we would be able to enforce that he would do with that money. Correct. So, and that's another thing Stephanie just pointed out, that if we do repurchase the property, we can't just sell it directly to another individual. We have to go through some other process to dispose of the property.
Which is why we use MADC to get rid of, to help us with these types of situations.
So if you give a second chance, we will go through the RFB process, and we will have the appropriate clawback on the agreement, and we can negotiate on development timelines. Or, I don't know if it's appropriate me to share this, but the people who are buying the lot have agreed to this thing in good faith, and do have some pretty good plans for the lot. Either way, we'll do whatever we can to make it work.
So we have a motion. We need a second. Or are you second?
You know, like Jeff mentioned before, you know, with what happened, obviously we can't correct that mistake. What I do hear from people in the public of how much property that the city does own downtown in parking lots, and I personally don't want any more. So if we have a viable solution that's across the street, and the new buyers obviously have a very good track record in this town already with a area that they have put a lot of money into, and it's been a very successful business. I'm glad that they are interested in this piece a lot too, because I believe they will carry through with it. So I don't want to put another piece of property on the city right now with that, so I will be on the different side of the fence, Mr. Savers.
Well, it'll die if we don't have a second, so is there anybody willing to second this motion? Okay, dies for lack of a second. Do we have another motion?
Obviously,
I guess I'll just,
I will make the motion to deny the right of first refusal, if that's the correct.
decline.
Decline the right of first refusal on this property.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rice and a second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Okay, roll call this, please.
Barrington,
Aye.
Sharks. I didn't. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Nay.
Aye.
Rice. Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The city's declining their option to purchase it back. The sale will go through.
The only one other comment that I'm going to make is I hope we can trust somebody's word that they are going to be sending the profits our way. There's nothing that we can do legally, but they've committed to it, and I think we owe it to the public to at least let them know what the amount is, and so we can address it to the streetscape and let them know how we arrived at the numbers, because I want everybody to be aware of the fact of how the sale has transpired, when it's going to transpire, and when the money is going to be sent our direction. And I guess all we can do is hope his word is good.
Does the right thing.
And truly, that is one of the things that influenced my vote, is that if truly that money will come and benefit the Mitchell Main Street and beyond's plans for revitalizing Main Street, I think that that's a worthy use of those funds. So.
I think we tried that once, it didn't work very good.
Okay. Moving on, action to approve request for speed limit sign near dog park. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this request came from a citizen. His request actually was for a 15-mile-an-hour sign. We're trying to match that area as close as possible, and being by the school, there is a mix of 15 and 25. There are no flashing beacons on 8th, so I felt 25 miles per hour was adequate for that area. I have done some review of that area, and I think a sidewalk or a bike path would be perfect on the west side of that section. And there is the possibility that funds would be available that we could use this year in that location to get those people off the road to help get people to and from the dog park safely.
So you're talking the road that goes from 8th Street north into the parking lot at between the softball diamonds?
Correct.
I just want to make sure it was clear. Okay?
Yes,
sir.
Yes, my name is Rick Agnich, and I'm representing the dog park, and that's exactly what we're looking to do, is get some speed limit signs through there. We're looking to make some improvements to the dog park. We got a number of people we're looking to raise some money. We've approached the Parks and Rec about getting donations. They've given us approval to start raising money. They've given us a fund we can send money into the Parks and Rec for the dog park, specifically send the money to the dog park fund. So we want to raise money for that, but we're more concerned with the safety on the road there, getting speed limit signs along there. So.
Okay. Questions?
I just want to comment, I recently moved back here. I'm originally from the Mitchell area, and I want to comment about want to comment about the Parks and Recs Department. You guys have an outstanding Parks and Rec Department. Your parks are unbelievable. Ball fields, the rec center. You guys need to be commended for how well you take care of everything around here. The dog park is unbelievable. We get a lot of people coming through town, tourists. We had a lady come through from Watertown that comes through twice a month. She's going to donate to the cause. We've had people come through, tourists that have actually stayed overnight to go to the dog park. So we get a lot of people comment about how great the dog park is. So
thank you. We appreciate that. Mr. Powell will pass that on to the staff.
Nathan and Jeremy and Angel do a great job. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Schrader, would you repeat again what your recommendation is for this?
My recommendation is for 2 25-mile-per-hour signs located on either side of, I believe it's Iowa Street.
That's considered Iowa Street, the extension of the road there?
Yeah, it's platted as Iowa Street. I don't think it's probably not marked as Iowa Street, but it's platted.
Okay. All right.
Move approval of 2 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs at the dog park.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mrs. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion? Oh, go ahead.
One comment, and I saw the article in the paper about the dog parks, and that's great, but one of the, and I've done a little research on them, one of the things that I read when people were talking about dog parks is if you want people to use the dog parks, make things there for the people to do, because the dogs don't know any different. And so if there's shade and shelter and water and maybe a bike path or a place to walk, or and then things for the people to do while their dogs play, they said dog parks just took off. So
I will say I've been by there.
Something to think about.
Well, we're planning on building some shelters there.
Because the people want to get out of the sun.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and putting picnic tables, and we've had a number of people that have said, great idea, and I've talked to a number of people that don't even have dogs and said, we'll donate to that. And we are also looking at doing a memorial wall for the K-9 units of the police, and people have said, hey, we've had a dog pass away, we want to put a little plaque up, and we'll donate for that. So it's going over very well. So
I will say I've been by there numerous times this summer, and it's been busy all the time. People all the time and dogs. So it's good to see it being used. So, okay. Anybody else wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2021-33 new fuel tanks at the street shop with West Plains Engineering. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, like you said, this is an agreement with West Plains Engineering to provide design, bidding, and construction services for new fuel tanks. There are currently 2 10,000-gallon tanks. DANR is telling us that it's time to replace them. So with that, we're looking at replacing them with a 15,000 and 12,000-gallon tank. And I do recommend approval to West Plains Engineering for a lump sum of $23,700.
Just to clarify, it says the city plans to install a 15,000 and a 10,000 gallon. Are you saying there's a 12,000?
No, the 10,000 should be 12,000. Yes.
This is the design part, and the budget's $150,000, so the target is
The
design and bid to come in with $150,000 total, including this design part?
We will be asked, the actual design, or the total project cost will be somewhere between $200,000 and $220,000, so I will be requesting additional funds come budget time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further discussion? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Mike, you're the only one left out there. Come on up.
I'm actually doing a project.
Say your name.
Mike Bathke. I'm actually doing a project with West Plains right now at the DOT shop. And I'm just curious, Joe, did they mention the Yankatank program?
So yes, we will have DANR pay to remove remove the tanks.
Right.
That will be part of their project.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those nay, motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2021-34, Hazard Mitigation Grant Program Award for Dry Run Creek Preliminary Study with the State of South Dakota. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm sure as you can remember, on November 4th of 2019, you guys approved an application for this grant. We just received in the last couple of weeks that we received those funds. Total estimated project cost was $204,800, a federal share of 75%, a state share of 10%, and then the local share of 15% of $30,720. This grant is through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and staff does recommend approval.
Does the grant cover the entire cost or just our cost?
So it covers, it's just for the preliminary design. So the cost is just for IDG's study portion. And with that, we're looking at possible floodplain reductions, areas where we can utilize portions of the channel, those types of things.
And just to remind council too, the funding for the local share was coming out of your designated reserves for stormwater runoff that we had set aside for these types of projects. Don't know what we called it specifically.
And if we go, how soon will the report study be completed, and then then it's a budget discussion again of what recommendations to either take or not take?
The hope would be to wrap the report up, to have it in time for next year's budget process. So that'd be 23.
And I think that falls in with, you have several drainage studies going on throughout the entire city. If you remember when we had a goal planning session where we said we need to set aside time to look at the results of all of those and look at funding of those as a whole, because you're going to have significant recommendations coming out of all of those projects.
Just and thinking vision-wise future, so I've always thought it would be great if we could have the bike path go all the way from the bypass to Foster. Would this give us drainage and elevation information to see if that's possible?
Certainly.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charts. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody nice wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2021-35. Steve Donovan is the grant administrator for the city's North American Wetlands Conservation Fund grant. You may recognize Mr. Donovan's name. He was the one who helped us get the grant. We hired him to write it. We got it. Now we need to administer it. Mr. Donovan was with Ducks Unlimited. He left there, went to the National Wild Turkey Federation. He is now leaving there and going to go out on his own to consult and whatnot. We thought it was a prime opportunity to get him on board to help us with the watershed and possibly Lake Mitchell. So he is willing to administer the NAUCA grant within the budgeted amount, and he will also be available to possibly help us with some grant writing if we can find future grants that will help us with Lake Mitchell as well as the watershed. Anything else you want to say, Mr. Schrader?
He is a perfect candidate.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Yes. Okay. Further discussion? Anybody nice wish to address this? There's only two of you left, so. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2021-46, a plat of lots 3 and 4 of AJ Beach subdivision in the North southeast quarter of Section 12, Township 103 North, Range 60 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this plat is in the county. It's in our jurisdiction area. Planning Commission did recommend approval 6-0.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barrington. Second by Mrs. Charts. Further discussion?
Has the county heard this yet?
I am not for certain on that.
County planning commission.
Come on up, Mark. We may as well make this your first official.
Good time to introduce Mark.
So this is Mark Jenegas. He is our new Neil Putnam. No, he is the new planning and zoning.
So I have a little knowledge with what's happening with
Yeah,
that one. County hears it tonight. County commission will hear it next Tuesday. All it is it's the last lot of Aaron's land out there. He's selling the bottom one, which would be 4 to the neighbor. And Hanson County is also platting 2 parcels over there, which is getting sold to the neighbor there. There's the ingress and egress that goes across Hanson and Davison County lines, and it's just getting everything finalized over there. So,
thank you.
So you're bringing a little experience from your old job to your new job, is that what you're telling us?
yes, ma'am.
That's awesome.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance 0202110, establishing time periods for annual appropriations proceedings. Ms. Elwine, you've been waiting for
Yep.
this for months.
I'm really hoping we're still going this direction, otherwise I'm going to be very busy for the next couple weeks. This ordinance, first reading, is due to the change in state law that went into effect July 1st. It allows the city council to adjust their budget timelines to allow for more flexibility, mainly because the budget deadlines that you had before of having the meetings in September was so that we could certify the levies to the county, which is just property taxes. As you're aware, the city requires about 72% of our total revenue comes from sales tax. So in order to meet those deadlines, we were starting our budget process really early in May. By pushing off our final approval of budget into, you'll see here, into November, that's going to, we're going to start the process internally in August, so we'll have a good 6 months of revenue and expenses to look at before we're actually looking at what we want to request for the upcoming budget year. That's going to be better for revenue forecasting. It's also going to be better because we're actually going to have a better handle on how many projects are going to get done that we actually budgeted for this year. Before, we were starting this process in May, and that's just really early to try to forecast next year what you're going to do. So this ordinance would change those timelines. Council will still certify the property tax levy in September, and you have a hearing on that, and then you'll have your final approval of the budget at the first and second meeting in November. I did include in my staff report that we had tentatively set our internal meetings starting in August. Council will probably start those in September, your work sessions on the budget.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Charks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody nice wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're adjourned.
I just want to tell everyone as you leave, at the beginning of the meeting, we had no audio whatsoever, so I just had to kind of restart the system, and that's when the feedback came back through. We did have Mid-States here for 2.5 hours the other day. They thought they had it isolated. We know there's computer interference. We thought we found the cord. I actually think it might be a box that we're having trouble with video. So we're still working on it. It's not that we're not addressing it. Mid-States, everybody thought we had it addressed last week. So.
Joe.
You're hearing complaints.